All right. Welcome back to Taking a New Approach podcast. I am so grateful to be here. So good to be back recording. If you're clicking on this video, I am so grateful and appreciative of you clicking on the video. I'm letting you know right now that the universe does not make mistakes. It's a reason why you clicked on this video. So definitely get what you need to get to use it on your journey and empower yourself, because that's what we're all about here on this podcast. Taking a New Approach is basically making sure that everyone is empowered, that everyone can guide themselves, and we always need help, but that should be not the first thing you depend on. It should be something where after you've done the work and you're like, oh, well, let me just double check, right? So I always like to start off with a little bit of breathing to kind of ground ourselves so that we can really just focus in on the message. And then from there, I get right into the topic. Okay. So basically, you got to take a deep breath. I'm going to count to 3. You just take a deep breath, blow it in, and then you let it out. And then we do it again and let it out. And then we get right into it. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, blow in, like, all right. And 1, 2, 3, breathe in again. So now you should really feel good. Every time I do this, I honestly feel so good. It's just like, nice little calming feeling. Okay. So as you can tell from the title, it says rise above your lower self. All right. And I'm just it just really just came to me as I was just walking around my apartment. I do it sometimes where it's just like I'm walking and I'm kind of talking to myself. So, of course, yes, if you think I'm crazy, then cool. You can go somewhere else if you don't like that. But, that's how sometimes I get downloads. My friend like to call it uploads. I'm like, whatever loads, it doesn't matter to me. It's just, I know it's coming from the ancestors, the guys, the universe, whatever you want to call it. Right. So I know I just need to get it out. And so as I was talking to myself, right, and I was kind of just going over things and just talking, just letting it out. That's like a technique that I do that I think people should try. Like whatever comes to you, just talk it out, talk about what you know, like almost like you're giving a speech, right? Like I do it all the time. And it just kind of came to me. And what it was about was I want to address, like, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie The Matrix, because I don't know how old you are or what country you're in. But if you've ever seen the movie, which is a great movie, if you've never seen it, please go see it, because it's definitely up this wheelhouse of esoteric spirituality and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen it, you're new to this whole new lifestyle or whatever, go see it. If you've seen it and you haven't seen it in a while, I advise you to please go watch it again, because it's very critical. It's very relevant, even to this day, almost 20 years later. It's so relevant to this day. And one scene I want to talk about is when Neo, Keanu Reeves, he was just getting out of the Matrix, right? And they had him and they put him on the little machine where they plug him in the back of the head. And he gets back and it goes to the training ground. And the training ground makes them end up in like walking on the street. And if you've seen the movie, a lot of you know, because it's a very powerful scene. And he talks, and Morpheus, he tells him, hey, like, this is the simulation. It's a simulation, which life is. It's a holographic reality. It's a holographic universe. You could go look it up, okay? So he's telling them this, and they're walking down the street, and he's letting them know, like, this is some of the best wisdom you can get. When you enter this type of lifestyle, you're going to realize that there are a lot of people that just are not awake. They're basically like brain dead. This is what mind control does, right? Keeps you attached. I always talk about this line from the Bible because it's very key, because it's wisdom. I don't do religion, but the book has wisdom because it's metaphysical, right? It's esoteric. So it's a line that always talks about being in the world, but not being of the world. So they were in the world as they were walking with people, as we are now. You're listening to me and things of that nature. But he was not of the world because they wasn't attached to the things, the daily routines, and the monotony of life. He was telling them, like, look, you have to realize that we're here. Those of us who have this knowledge, who understand, we're here to help. But at the same time, you must remember that these people are still your enemies, because they are so ingrained in this reality that they will even kill you to stay in this reality if you try to disconnect them too fast. Right? And we see that with the guy who eventually traded on them, but I don't want to spoil the movie for those people. But eventually you understand that, okay, I can't just be pushing this on everyone, right? And that's what we do when we get into this. We try to push it on people and things of that nature, and you're struggling, right? Like you're outcast. You don't feel like you have a sense of belonging. It's really hard for you. And I understand, like, it gets lonely sometimes, and you just feel like, man, do I even need to be here? And sometimes and then that's when the negative thoughts can start coming in, and that's when all these different things, right, starts to test you. And what I really wanted to talk about, because in that same scene, as he's telling them this, Neo sees a woman in a red dress. Now, this is very powerful, and this is what we're really going to talk about today. And this is about rising above your lower self. It's because the woman in the red dress was on so many levels, and I'm going to break that down because I got this download, but I haven't, I'm there breaking it down still. But that was a part of being of the world, right? Because he tapped into his lower chakra. So the red represents the root chakra, right? And you can double check, and if you don't like it, this is just my download, right? Like, either it vibes with you or not, okay? I'm not saying like, oh yeah, this is confirmed by the production house. Like, no, right? Yeah, like the author himself told me this. No. But I know it speaks to my soul. So I'm going to let you hear it and you decide for yourself. But it represented the root chakra because the red is connected to the root chakra, the color red, right? And it's also connected to your sense of belonging. Because if you notice in the movie, one of the big themes of the movie, and you saw it, is that he did not believe in himself. That has a lot to do with with your root chakra. See, a lot of times we are living, that's why I said rise above your lower self, because you're living in an unbalanced lower self. First off, it's not even balanced. And then it is one of the 3 physical chakras, right? It has to do with the physical matter. Like, we all about spiritual and the invisible, and that's good. But you also have to realize we're still here in the physical. So we have to address that as well. So we have to learn how to balance that part, but not just live in that part. It's important. So we have to balance that. So ask yourself, how have you been balancing yourself, your sense of belonging, your integrity, right? Your self-worth. This is what it has to do, your stability, especially in the time of with the corona, and I can't really say it too much because they have a flag and stuff. But just in the time of this pandemic, because that's what they're attacking. They're attacking your sense of self. They're attacking your stability. And we have to understand, yes, we're in this world. And yes, you might have lost your job. Yes, but that's not your universal truth. Doesn't mean you will not make it through. Right? And sometimes things have to fall down. And in order for things to get better. In order for you to, sometimes things got to fall down in order to clear way. So that you can get past. So that you can move forward. So understand, this is not just about, okay, I want to balance my shop. It goes deeper than that, right? This is about your journey. How are you helping yourself? And I found some stuff because I'm going to read you some stuff that I was finding. And I got this one from spacioustherapy.com. So you can go there. I'm not saying they're the chief expert on this, but I just really like what they said. And I'm going to read you some of it. And basically, it was talking about the root chakra is associated with the first task we undertake after birth. That is to determine, do I belong here? See, when Neo got out of the Matrix, his whole thing was, do I belong here? His whole thing was, who am I? He didn't even understand. And then when they told him who he was, he didn't even believe it. Right? That's why it was so powerful. It was a small moment and you're like, oh, okay, he got distracted because of the woman, but it also fed into your earliest nature, because you got to realize the root chakra has a lot to do with your brain, because your brain is you have three brains. You have the reptilian, the limber, and the neural cortex. Your reptilian brain is what deals with your survival, reproduction, and genetics. You can research this, okay? I'm not, you don't have to take it for my word, right? Right? And I got that from Dr. David Snyder, but I bought his course, right? So if you want that, you're going to have to chalk up some money for that, but I definitely, I'm putting in the work. I don't just want to not bring no facts or listen to no experts or anything like that. And I made that connection. So he doesn't really say that, but I made that connection due to what the root has to deal with and that. And basically, your reptilian brain is the first thing you really respond to. That gives you your first action. And what was the first action that Neo dealt with? Right? Like, what was it? He was like looking at the woman. So that had to do with reproduction, sex. I'm not saying sex is a bad thing. Please don't. It's a very powerful thing. It's a very good thing. It's a great healing thing. Right? It's very nourishing if we know how to use it. But I'm letting you know, like, when you are living in your lower self, you can miss your mission. You could get off of your purpose, right? Because of something as simple as living in the flesh. That's living in the flesh. That's being of the world. Because those are the easy temptations, right? It's just your reptilian. It's just, oh, okay, I see a girl I like, cool, I want that. I see a guy I like, good, I want that. For the ladies, right? So you have to understand. And this root chakra was built almost, if you ever taken psychology, is really built on that first stage of trust versus mistrust, and Erik Erikson's stages of development. And basically the child learns to be secure in this world, right? To be secure in this world if the parents provide all that it needs. Because if it doesn't, right, then it feels insecure, and then that leads to not only physical problems, but emotional problems, like not trusting themselves, right? Lacking confidence. which then plays into a lot of other things. And that's why I say don't live in your lower self. You got to rise above your lower self. Balance it, but don't live in it. Because when you're living in it, you're likely to fall to those physical reality, these temptations in physical reality. And then we wonder why people are so vain, because a lot of our root chakras are not balanced, especially in today's world. Everything is based on people getting attention because they don't really feel secure within themselves. That's an insecurity. Like, ladies, come on now. You should not have 50 different pictures of yourself, taking pictures of yourself in a bathroom, looking at your outfit, fantasizing over yourself. I'm not against self-love, but the fact that you got to take 90 different pictures in the same poses, that's vanity. That's insecurity. And you got to start to work on that, and that has to do with your root chakra. So as I was saying, like, you begin with that, and then we go to this trusting and mistrust. Okay? And so as you deal with that, when the baby ends up being secure, now you're able to grow, right? And build the other things you need to build. But your foundation matters the most, right? When we think about anything, your roots, the roots of plants, if they're damaged, then you're not going to get good crops. If the foundation of a house is cracked and not done well, what happens? Everything else around the house starts to mess up. Even if you're an athlete, like I work out, athletes and other people, it's all about your base. And if you don't build up your lower body correctly, right, then you are more prone to being injured. So you got to get your foundation right. And how have you been building your foundation? How have you been taking care of your root chakra? What exercises are you doing? This is not to judge. I'm here to inspire, never to judge you. Like, that's your business. This is just to help you get to thinking and put the seed in your mind to be like, oh, well, you know what? What can I do? What is possible? Oh, you know what? A self-assessment. Oh, that's great. That works for me. So, really understand that, because that's going to be the key for you to get you to the next level and make you feel good while you're on this journey. And once you build that foundation, they can't stop you. And when it's stuck and stagnant or imbalanced or blocked, that's when, like, your zest and your vitality for life goes. So right now, if you're feeling depressed, you're feeling angry, you're having lower back pain, because a lot of this will show up in your physical body. That's why I'm also talking about this as well, because a lot of this will show up in your physical body. You will have lower back pain. You will have immune-related disorders. You will have depression, sciatica, inflammation, like some of the stuff that you would deal with just mentally and emotionally. I already said your self-esteem, your security, your family, your social order, your survival. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about it and wanted you to watch that movie, because it was a short, powerful scene. But that lady walking by was so much more powerful to me just based off of this, because it was talking about your root chakra. It was talking about your foundation, because at the time he lacked confidence. He didn't have self-esteem in who he was, because he was just becoming in the world. And Morpheus was the person when I was just talking about that trust versus mistrust, the Erickson stages of development. He was helping him to develop, to build trust in himself, to build that he belonged in the world. So it's very powerful. That's why, like, you building yourself, maybe it's for your nieces or nephews or your children, so that they can have something of a sense of security. Maybe they might not go as hard as you in the spiritual, but at least if you can make a balanced, nice, decent human being, that would make the world at least a little bit better than us just running around with our heads cut off, struggling. And then on top of that, the root chakra has to deal with pleasure or pain, and that has to do physically, instincts. So his instincts was to look at the lady, that pleasure, because she was an attractive lady in red. The idea of sex is one of those things that is the downfall of a lot of people, not only men, women too. That's why we got a lot of single mothers, and especially in the African American community, but also it's a rise in just Western society. It's no longer just, they like try to play it off, but there's a rise in all types of communities. So we got to address that, and we have to do better. And just a little bit more information for you in terms of the area of the body it affects: the spinum column, the kidneys, the legs, the feet, the rectum, the immune system. So this has to do with a lot. Like, a lot of times people say, diseases not necessarily are physical, but they're spiritual. But if that means they're spiritual, that means you can also heal them you can heal those spiritual aspects through your physical, right? Like, it's just the inverse. So when you understand that, look at all these things. If you were to fix or at least balance your chakra and understand that and live above it, right? Balance, but live above it. You don't want to live in your lower self. This is the age where we are no longer physical. This is all about a spiritual warfare for your mind, right? But you still have a physical body, so you still have to take care of that. You still have to maintain those different aspects of it. So make sure your root chakra is good, and you will know, because you'll be sensing a lack of clarity. You'll just be angry, mad. You won't like your vitality for life will go away. And the best way to fix that, because I never want to just tell you stuff and not give you some guidance on where you can start to look or what can help you, is eating more red food in fruits, right? Fruits, vegetables. That helps. Like, it really does. Wearing clothes that match the color associated with the chakra. So in this case, red. It could be red socks. It could be red pants, red shoes. If you're in the area, because I come from the south side of Chicago, so I understand gang culture. So if you are listening to this somewhere and you can't wear that color, maybe a simple reminder. It's usually just a reminder. So even if you have to carry like a little red card in your wallet or something, just in case, because I don't know who's listening to this or where you are, and I don't want you to go to one area and you like, I can't do that, because I understand. I understand. Like, you still have to live. Like, I don't know how powerful you feel, but also you got to remember, we're still in the real world. So just piggybacking off of that, right? Just to keep going. So, like I said, this helps you to feel grounded and to feel clear. How have you been feeling lately? I really want you to sit with yourself today. How have you been feeling lately? The answers to a lot of our problems that we think we have in life is simply in how we ask a question. The answer to a lot of the situations we have in our life is based off how we ask the question. So ask yourself, how are you feeling today? How am I feeling in this moment? See, this is a way that you can build up your intuition as well, because now you have to come back to yourself. Because a lot of times we zone out. We so focused on everything else. We worried about everyone else. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to care and be compassionate, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So remind yourself, always plug back into yourself and like, how am I feeling today? And if I was you, right, and even for me, like I'm going to start doing it too, it's like just check in with each aspect of yourself, right? So each chakra, be like, how my lower three doing? If you don't know them, look them up. And then sit with yourself and be like, how am I feeling? Do I feel this way that they're saying I'm supposed to feel? Do I feel a little bit off? Oh, well, I feel good on these two. This one, not so much. So let me work on that. See, that's how you become powerful. See, that's the power we have. And all it took was you doing a little bit of work, but also asking the right questions. It wasn't just what's wrong with me. It started with your intention of your question. It was just inquiry. It was just inquiry. It was like, okay, well, let me check in with myself. So you got to start to care about yourself. And how you start to care about yourself is you start to ask questions to yourself. That's why I was talking to myself. I care about me. I care about my thoughts. I care about what's going on with me. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Nowhere near perfect. I don't want to be perfect yet. Because once I hit perfect, I want to be gone. I want to be gone. I don't know about y'all, but I want to be gone. So, rising above your lower self, it's all in the questions that you're asking yourself. Checking in with yourself. Understanding yourself. Like, I knew that my self-esteem was low because of my upbringing. I also knew that it was a reason why now, right? Because I don't have an attachment to many of the things in the world that tempt the lower self, right? Yes, I love women, but I didn't grow up just getting a ton of women. So for some dudes, that's tough for them. Like when something comes so easy and it's constantly little pretty boys and stuff, like when it's constant like that, that's hard, right? Like it's hard for them. Right? And then they lose time and they lose their energy and they're not being grounded. So they're unstable, having all these issues, and they can't figure out why, because it's in your survival, in your nature, your reptilian brain and your root chakra to want reproduction, because that's a part of your survival, right? And innate your instincts. But at the same time, they don't understand just because it's a part of you doesn't mean it's the best aspect or that it's the best way that it will lead you to the best way of living. Right? Like we all got anger, but to be angry all the time, every second of the day, it's not going to lead us to great health, great relationships, right? Great opportunities in our life. Anger is a part of a human nature, but I wouldn't tell you to live an angry life all day long. But some people do. And they think they're getting somewhere, but they're really not. They're really not. And they have to learn how to balance these things. I'm not saying that you should never be angry or any of those emotions, but at the same time, you got to understand there's a balance to everything. When you fall of the world, when you get into it, understand it might be there for you to learn a lesson so that you can get back on being stronger so that you don't have to keep falling into it. Right? Like everything is about like, I will fall, right? Like everybody will like fall back into being in the world of that world, fall into these things, but understanding it, recognizing it, and not staying for too long where it doesn't benefit you and you don't come out with more wisdom. And that's what I really want you to understand. So when you rise above yourself, doesn't mean you won't ever go down, because you're going to have to go back in there because you're going to learn some stuff and you got to test it out. You got to test some stuff out and have those experiences, but you don't need every single one. That's a wisdom as well. You don't have to go through everything. If you see a person run out there and they got hit by the car and it's the same situation going on, you don't need to go out there and do it and be like, yeah, I think I got a better shot. No. Just saw about 15 people do the exact same thing and the end result was not good. I'm going to pass, right? It's just that simple. That's wisdom. And then sometimes you got to experience some things because, hey, like that's the journey you chose. So be mindful of this. Everything I say is always with balance. So don't ever, because I used to come into spirituality and stuff and think, oh yeah, like that's absolute, right? Most things are not absolute. Some things are, but most not. So use your guidance. Take it for what it's worth and then move on. So again, think about this, because I realize and getting into the things that I'm into now, especially like trauma is huge. And this has to do with your sense of security in the world. And that's why I also encourage you, right, to deal with those traumatic situations, whether that's through therapy, hypno, like that's what I'm learning to do to help people with stuff like that. Like past life regressions, things of that nature. Because that's a lot of people's issue right now. And because it's not mainstream, it's not something that everybody is constantly on, we tend to overlook it. And just because we overlook it doesn't mean it's not playing a part in our life. And a major role at that. So please realize and imagine those times. Like, imagine you probably had a traumatic experience, probably somewhere between 0 to 7, and you probably even blocked it out. And right now, if you were to do the work on that, you would realize, like, man, I didn't even know I wasn't even, like, dealing with this issue still. And it really depends. Because in this interesting society, I won't, beat it up, but the reason why I do this work is because I've seen so much pain going on, right? That's just the empath in me. Like, just the homelessness, working the low wage jobs that's just not, you're grateful for it because no matter what, it's someone who always want that spot. But at the same time, that people are taking advantage of the system, right? We're talking about people who have sexual abuse, children, right? Like, you see it all the time, right? Like, that's why I don't watch the news. I encourage you, really don't watch the news. I only might see it every once in a while because I'm a psycho like that. Like, I like to know what's going on because I need to understand where people are, because I want to help. So I need to know what's the temperature of what's going on. But if you're just trying to get your life together and you got your own little path that you know you need to go to, and it ain't got to really do with helping people and their and the craziness of them, I advise you to avoid the news as much as possible. Like, get the weather and go about your business. Right? Like, that's all you need to do. Get the weather and go about your business, because it's not worth it. It's there to train you anyway. Mind control. So I would definitely advise you to not look at the news. That's another way you can rise above your lower self, is to not take in all the junk that we have constantly streaming into our life. The movies, right? The television shows, the internet shows, the books, the teachings that we get from some of the people around us. That's how you know if you're rising above your lower self, is that you start to push away. So just one sign to know if you're rising above your lower self is that you're pushing away from a lot of the things you used to enjoy. Like, I used to like to go to the club and to, bars and things of that nature. Now it's like, I care so much about my energy. I don't like being in those places. I don't want to get drunk like that. Don't mean I don't drink, but I'm not trying to get trashed like that, right? Because that used to be my mentality when I was real young, like around 21, 22. Yeah, let's go get drunk. College mindset. And if you're young and you going to college, experience it, but it's overrated. Get there, do what you got to do. And especially if you're into this type of stuff, use them libraries. I don't regret anything, but that's one thing I wish I would have used more if I had this knowledge now. It's the library. Because they're holding a lot of information in those libraries. And also the libraries are, you have like the little loan that you could get books from other schools and stuff. So if your school is that dope, then definitely take advantage of it. Get involved, do some stuff, but and also don't be afraid. Like, it's cool to sit in on a weekend and read a book and learn. I wish I would have took that advantage. But I also don't regret my experiences because it made me who I am. So that's just a little bit to know for you guys who are out there like, oh, how do we notice that if we are living above, rising above our lower self, you're not going to be interested in stuff you used to like. Like, I was watching shows like earlier, I think it was this morning or yesterday, and it was like I was laughing, but then I just kept seeing stuff like subliminal messages, and I was just like, ooh, that's not good. And then that's when I was just like, yeah, I realized, like, I rose above, like, I'm not the same person anymore. I'm not living in that physical lower self. Because now, and I wasn't even trying to look for stuff. I was trying to make sure it was just entertaining. Didn't have to think hard on it. Still saw the stuff. So that's another thing. You just start seeing it and you start watching stuff and you're like, this ain't really, this used to be funny, but it's not funny anymore. Or you listen to certain music and you're like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't really want to listen to that anymore. Or the people you hang around, you're like, they cool, but I don't really want to hang around them anymore. They don't really feed my soul. And Doesn't mean you always have to get something from it, but just in general, it's like, if you don't feel comfortable around it, why be around it? If you don't have to be, right? It's a difference. You just got to work that job, and some things you don't like about it. Okay, make the best of it. See the good in it. See the good in it. So you make sure that you start to realize you don't like stuff. You realize that the people around you, and you start to get your interest starts to change, where you start liking other things. Things that you never thought you would watch before. Things you would never thought you would want to do. Right? You'll start to read more. Everything will start to just be an intention behind it. You will be purposeful in how you move. You're just not just, your self-awareness will increase. This is things that you, like, if you notice this in yourself or others, like, they're probably starting to level up their game. Because that's not, like, when you're living in your lower self, you don't have real self-awareness. Like, in that scene, Neo didn't have the self-awareness to realize, oh, that was an agent. Because he just saw the girl and was like, dang, she fine, and then just kept walking. And Morpheus like, no, turn around. And that agent had the gun right up to his face. No self-awareness. And she stood out of everybody. So he noticed her, but he didn't have the idea to be like, hold on, why is everybody else in black looking like drones and she's just so out of the box? What's up with that? Right? Which goes back to your root chakra. That has to do with it. So please understand, like, the reason why I'm so focused on this root chakra and rising above yourself is because your lower self, like, it's not where we need to be operating in. It needs to be balanced, but we got to rise above the crown chakra, like, operating out our heart, speaking our truth out our throat. This is what it comes down to, because that's what they're trying to, those who are in power, and you'll understand as you really put in this work and you're really about this life, they're trying to stop us from speaking this truth. They don't want me to let you know of this. They don't want me to be able to think like this. They don't want me to have the compassion and the empathy in my heart for others. That's why we see just the savagery in our society. That's why it's falling. That's why they have this, like, gender war going on. Right? Where you're evaluating man by what's man-made. Right? And you evaluating women by their lower selves. Oh, they only here for sex. Like, come on now. On both sides. We are great. We are great. Whoever is listening to this, and those who have yet to find it, they are great. It's just we are going through stages. So understand this. And when you're able to be stable, you will have more compassion. You will have more empathy, more gratitude, to be able to work with people, to be more patient. That's another thing. You'll be more patient when you're living above your lower self. When you rise from that lower self. More patience. Because you understand, like, oh, okay, this person is just going through their thing. And the great thing about this is when we allow this energy, when we really tap into this root chakra, when we really get it balanced, right? It allows you to be courageous, resourceful, and it'll help you through challenging times. So for all of you out there right now listening to this, and I'm about to wrap it up. Understand, during this time, challenging times, you should be focused on your chakra. Doing little exercises and meditations for it. A great visualization, I would advise you, if you could find a patch of grass somewhere, because I don't know if you live in a home or in the city in an apartment, or you don't have a backyard or whatever, but if you could find a patch of grass where it's semi-quiet, or you could go to a park, you just get in there barefoot, make sure there ain't no snakes or anything, because I'm in the South, so I don't know where you are. So if you just know the area so that you don't go in a place and get bit or anything. But go in the grass, no shoes, no socks, plant your feet, close your eyes, and take as many deep breaths and let them out as much as possible. Right? As many as you need. When you feel that you feel like you're centered, and I want you to visualize that roots, like, right, the roots of trees or plants, like some roots are growing from your feet, plugging into the ground and going to the core. All right, that's what I want you to do. When you feel that you are just like unbalanced, and you can still do it in your house or whatever like that, but to really get more benefits from it, to find a patch of grass or something like that will definitely get your feet to the earth, right? Because that's what grounding is about. So if you can do that and have your feet go through the ground, and the roots go through your feet and go through the ground, like almost like you're plugging in, being secured, feeling strong, feeling stable, right? And do that until you know, not what I know, not how long I'm going to, until you feel like I could walk in power. I can embrace this moment. I can step into this and make it. That is the goal. And that will allow you to not only balance your chakra, right? Because some of you might need a little bit more work. And I'm going to give you a couple of things that you could look into. But that would definitely start to help you along the way. Also, the article on the spacious therapy, it talks about deeper work with this to heal this root chakra. So you could do psychotherapy, trauma therapy. It says Reiki, a specific type of yoga, Tai Chi, movement meditation that removes stagnant accumulated emotional energies. That's why I was saying, with if the spiritual emotional body can make your physical body sick, you're then doing things to your physical body when your emotional body is messed up can heal the emotional body. It's all connected. Even when you have physical ailments, you could do things physically to it, right? But you want, like, it's no just, okay, I'm just going to be vegan and that should be good enough. No, you got to heal the emotional side, right? And the mental side, the spiritual side, like, you got to heal all of it. But those are just great things for you to check into. Also, I would recommend hypnotherapy, like hypnosis, because I know, and you could look up the guy I mentioned earlier, Dr. David Snyder. I know he's doing wonderful things. That's why I'm buying the courses. And when all this pandemic stuff is over, I'm definitely going to be trying to, I'm not trying, I'm going to some of those conferences that he has around the United States so that I could get certified and do all this stuff, because this is the work I want to do. I know this is my purpose, and I'm just grateful that you guys are listening, and hopefully you grab what you needed out of this. I know this is kind of one of my longer ones, but I really wanted to talk about it because I think that scene was just so powerful, right? I thought that scene was so powerful, and it was a greater breakdown into rising above our lower selves and the connection with our lower selves and how it influences us and how we can learn to rise above it, because that will be the downfall of a lot of people when you're attached to luxury and all this other stuff that they tell you that you need, because it's all about really perception. It's really perception. All right. So it definitely needs to be worked on. So go ahead and work on that. I love you guys. I will talk to you on the next one, and we'll probably do something. I'll probably delve more into this, but I just don't want to keep you too long. I understand a lot of people attention spans, right? So I gave you something to chew on it, work on it, and then I'll definitely probably do like a part 2, or I'll do another one about the root chakra and then recommend people to go back to this and talk about it in a different form. Okay. So I love you guys. You're lovable. You're worthy. You're deserving. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, get the likes up for your boy, comment. If you want any questions answered, leave them in the comments or email me, coaching session, email me. If you want to donate. Thank you. I just am grateful for being able to even talk and do this and put it up on YouTube. So I'm grateful for that, and I will remain with an attitude of gratitude. So focus on that. Focus on what's going well in your life, not what is going wrong. And then when you do focus on that, focus on it for how can I solve this? And where is the solution to this issue? Okay? Love you. Talk to you next time. Bye.